The game we were all waiting for. Cade Cunningham versus Clarence Green finally happened, and our guy ended up on top after a win against Houston, 112-104. We'll talk about everything that happened in this game and the matchup between the number 1 and number 2 overall picks in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. This episode is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends over at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. You can find the podcast over on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button over there if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so go support the podcast over at YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. And also, thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And today, obviously, we are going to be talking about the game from last night against Clarence Green and the Houston Rockets. The Pistons were able to pull this one out 112-104. Obviously, the big matchup was between the number 1 and number 2 overall picks. Cade Cunningham had his first 20-point game of the season. He had 20 points, 8 of 18 shooting, 4 of 8 from deep. He had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block. He played really good today. I think that was probably his best game of the season, most efficient game of the season. He was able to get his outside shot to start going. Definitely showed up for the matchup against Clarence Green. But Jeremy Grant, he went off for 35 points. He had shot 12 of 23 from the field, 4 of 9 from deep. He had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. The first half of this game was not excuse me. First half of this game was not that entertaining to watch. I'm not going to lie. I tweeted out that, I apologize to everybody for this game being on national TV because it was very, very poor game in the first half. In the second half, it started to heat up a little bit more. It was a little bit more fun to watch. Jeremy Grant went off for 16 or 18 in the third quarter. That made it a lot more fun to watch. But when it comes to the matchup between the two rookies, I thought they both had their moments. Obviously, Green ended up with 23 points in this game. He shot 8 of 20 from the field, 3 of 11 from deep. He had his moments. He definitely hit some shots that were interesting. And everyone will know if you watch the game, tension started to rise a little bit when Jalen Green got a dunk along the baseline, turned around, screamed at Cade Cunningham, called him boy, ended up getting teed up. But something that I thought was absolutely hilarious is that after the game, Cade Cunningham was asked about this, and James Edwards III tweeted this out. It says, "Cade on players talking trash." He says, "Nothing I heard tonight held any real weight. It was off of the cameras, I thought," which is absolutely hilarious. It's just so on cue for what Cade's about and really what Jalen Green's about. Because at a certain point in this game, it definitely felt like it looked like it was more important. The 1v1 between Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham was more important to the Houston rookie than it was the Pistons guy. Cade, throughout the screaming at him, he didn't really respond. I believe at one point the camera flashed over to Cade, and Cade was just turning around and smiling at him. So Cade never really fed into it at all. And that I thought another thing that was funny, Cade sent a couple subtle shots at him after the game. Cade posted a picture on Instagram right after the game of him when he took a charge on Jalen Green towards the end of the game. He got called for a charge, and Jalen Green was a little hurt afterwards. He posted a picture of him on the ground with all of his teammates helping him up, and while they're helping him up, literally right next to Cade is Jalen Green holding his arm or whatever. He's hurt. So it's all the Pistons and Cade on the ground getting helped up while Jalen Green's on the ground next to him, and he had no caption to it. So I thought that was pretty funny as well. Cade, that sounds like I don't think Cade was going to entertain the trash talk, obviously, on the court, but, he definitely got his shots in after the game, I feel like. But yeah, Cade, I feel like he looked the same way he did all season. He created space for his jumpers. He created space on his looks. Just the difference tonight was he actually was able to hit his shots. I was on Locked On today, and they asked me, what was different about Cade tonight. There was nothing different in my opinion. I think Cade looked really like how he looked all season. He was creating the space he wanted. He was getting the shots he wanted. Just tonight, he's another game in of knocking off the rust, and he's making more outside shots. So I don't think he looked any different. I don't think it was anything, too crazy that we haven't seen before from Cade already. Just the difference was he actually was hitting it this time. Excuse me. You guys know I've been sick. I'm fighting through it for you guys, trying my hardest. But yeah, don't think it was anything different from Cade. I think he has some improvements that he needs to make. Obviously, he had 4 turnovers in this game. I didn't like that. He had 1 turnover late to Isaiah Stewart, where the game was up in the air. And he tried to throw a home run pass to Isaiah Stewart underneath the basket, threw him like a Matthew Stafford hot pass. And Isaiah Stewart just not going to be capable of handling that kind of pass. He turned the ball over. In that kind of situation, you don't really want to go for something like that. Stay with the easy passes. Stick with just getting a good look. Don't take a chance like that with the game up in the air. So I think that's an area that he can improve on, turnovers and late game decisions like that with the ball in his hands. But I thought he did a good job in another area down the stretches. He hit a shot for the Pistons to really give him a lead and give him some cushion down the stretch. He was able to get a spinning layup to hit with about, I think, minute and a half, 2 minutes left to go. It gave the Pistons, I believe, a 3-point lead. So he definitely answered the call late. He answered the call throughout the game. He looked good. I'm not going to sit here and troll. Green had his moments, but I think Cade Cunningham proved tonight and showed tonight why he was the number 1 overall pick against this number 2 overall pick. And Cade, he only had 3 assists, but really he should have had like 10 assists. The Pistons can't hit nothing, bro. They can't hit shots. And Cade got the Pistons like multiple wide open shots. They just can't hit them. So he really should have had like 20 and 8. But we're going to talk about that later on in the podcast. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit of Jeremy Grant's game, about how well he played, and then we're going to talk about everything else, which is majority negative. I know the Pistons won this game, but it was against the other 1-win team, and the Pistons didn't play good at all, I don't feel like, and there's a lot of bad to be taken away from this game, to be honest. But we'll talk about that when we come back from the ad break. But first, let me tell you about one of our sponsors, BetOnline AG. We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Also, go check us out on YouTube. We're sitting around 440 subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. Even if you don't want to watch the podcast over on YouTube, simply support the podcast. Simply support the podcast over on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Also, just to give you guys a little heads up, I recorded the podcast. You guys may be wondering, why is this podcast coming out a little bit later than it usually does? Well, I recorded the podcast right after the game yesterday. And the audio was completely messed up, and I didn't have time to do it yesterday, so I had to wake up early the following day and get it out. So that's why it's a little bit later than usual. I apologize for that. And also, I'm going to continue to apologize because I know my voice sounds messed up, and the coughing every now and then isn't attractive. I'm still dealing with this sickness. I'm fighting through it, trying to get this. Hopefully, I start feeling better sooner or later. This sucks. But anyways, let's get back into this game. Jeremy Grant had 35 points, 12 of 23 shooting from the field. I thought Jeremy, and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, that Jeremy looks a lot better when he lets the game come to him. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have his moments tonight where he ISO'd or, he had his pull-up jumpers. He did. But I think it all started with him letting the game come to him, playing off of the ball handlers, moving around without the ball. That's where he's at his best. And he looked like that tonight because of that. He got heated from those shots, And then eventually he started feeling himself a little bit. He started taking a little bit more of those pull-up jumpers. He started isoing a little bit more. I'm still not a fan of him taking the pull-up jumpers, those long twos. I just don't like the long twos. I like it when he isos and he goes to the basket, like with his left hand dunk at the end of the half. I thought that was exactly what he should do every time he isos, just take the guy to the basket and draw fouls or finish at the rim. But he had a tremendous game. He was really active on the defensive end as well. He had that one chase down block on, I believe it was Christopher at the rim, which was he. If you were listening to the game, the game turned up. You heard uh, some swear words shouted in his direction after Jeremy Grant blocked him, but it was an insane block. But yeah, Jeremy, I thought had a great game. And I think when he lets the game come to him, he'll be a great piece for this team. Obviously, it's just I think the Pistons need, if they can, I think they need to do a better job of trying to hone this in. And I don't know if it's Jeremy himself or if it's the play calling. I know you guys know who Bryce is of Motor City Hoops. He mentioned on Twitter, he tweeted at me that he doesn't think that these isos, these long drawn out isos that Jeremy takes off these handoffs are really drawn out. I think it's more to get him downhill, and Jeremy just chooses to make him drawn out. So on those plays, I think he needs to do a better job of just doing what he was so good at tonight, is letting the game come to him and getting to the rim. And I think if he does that, he'll continue to have a good season, and he continues to play really well when he plays with Cade Cunningham. So I think, like I said, I think Jeremy will be a good piece for this team. He had a tremendous game. Hopefully that gives him going throughout the season. But yeah, I really liked what we saw from Jeremy yesterday. It was a great game by him. Give me just 1 second. Let me get this drink of water. The water is the only thing saving me. But outside of Cade and Jeremy Grant, there literally, I don't feel like as many positives at all outside of them. There's 3 places where we're gonna go, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. The first place we're gonna go is one of the players off the bench. I had one of you guys tweet at me and say, "Koo, I know you have tough conversations about other players when it's time to talk about them. There's this player, I think it's time to have a tough conversation about him." And you guys were 100% right. Frank Jackson. Frank Jackson, literally, I'm not sure he's doing anything for the Pistons right now. He's playing awful, like just flat awful for the Pistons. And, you guys know that I was a fan of Frank Jackson coming into the season. You guys know that I thought highly of him coming into the season. You guys know, in the offseason, I talked about how much of a role he'll play for the Pistons this year. But that's absolutely not been the case through 10 games. He's shooting 34% from the field, 21% from deep, 62% from the free throw line, 42.7 true shooting percentage. We're talking about Stanley Johnson type of true shooting percentage here. And he's not providing anything else for the Pistons. He's a shot hunter. He's a shot chucker, which is fine if you're playing the way he did last year, where he's one of the Pistons' main scorers, one of the Pistons' best scorers off the bench. He's providing a spark off the bench. And he's really good at it. When you're doing that, every team needs someone who can go get themselves a bucket, and he was that last year. And the Pistons honestly really need that this year. They need a guy who can do that outside of Cade and every now and then Jeremy Grant. And Frank just hasn't shown up at all. So I think at this point, the Pistons on Friday should look at trying to get Hamidou Diallo some minutes instead of Frank Jackson. It's been 10 games now. Frank Jackson is not playing well. I don't think anybody else on the team, besides maybe Corey Joseph, we'll talk about him as well next. But I don't feel like anybody outside of them two, and maybe like Jeremy Grant, obviously, but would be able to play this awful for 10 straight games and continue to get minutes off the bench. I know that Hamidou Diallo isn't exactly outside shooter or anything, and I know that he's had his struggles, but he should at least be given a chance to take the minutes because Frank Jackson's not providing anything, and he's actually been a net negative on the court. He doesn't provide defense. He's not providing playmaking. He's not providing smart decisions. He's going and looking for a shot, and he's not hitting anything this year at all. It's really bad. I hope he turns around at some point this season. Because you guys know how high I was on Frank Jackson. But at this point, there's no way that you can continue playing him, I feel like. After 10 games of playing this awful, you have to at least bench him and make him I don't want to say punish him, but give someone else a shot to take his minutes because he's not doing it right now. He's just not. So at least I think we should give Hamidou Diallo a chance, see if he can play better than he was at the beginning of the season, provide some defense maybe, finish at the rim a little bit more. I mean, what's the shot? I mean, what are you going to lose? outside shooting, you weren't getting it anyways. So I just think that Frank needs to be benched at this point. He'll get his chance again after he gets benched. You'll give him another chance at some point, but right now, I think he has to get benched. It's just he's playing too bad. It's he has to be benched. Then that takes us to another player, Corey Joseph. Outside the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, where he hit his only 2 shots of the game, this by far I feel like was the worst game of Corey Joseph's career. That may be a little bit of a stretch, but definitely this season. He was putrid tonight. He had 5 turnovers in 16 minutes. You're a veteran point guard, the backup point guard, only because you're supposed to take care of the ball and lead by example. If you're having 5 turnovers in those limited minutes, you're not doing either of those things. You're playing awful and you're not doing the main thing you're supposed to be doing. I think after a game like this, and really, I don't feel like Corey Joseph's played good at all this season to begin with. Any other game, I don't feel like he's really been that good. But specifically after this game of playing this awful, either I think 2 things need to happen for Friday. Either one, you call up Saban Lee and let Saban Lee take some of his backup minutes and give Saban Lee a chance. Or 2, which is what I've been asking for the longest, simply stagger Killian and Cade. Keep one of them on the floor at all times as your point guard. I don't think it's hard to do. I think it's very easy to pull it off. I don't know why they don't do it. Dwayne Casey and the staff talked about doing it before the season started. I don't think we've really seen that at all so far this season. I don't get it. I think that's the main thing they should be doing. But if they don't want to do that, I think they should call up Saban Lee and let him get some of the minutes because Corey Joseph just hasn't been good, and this game was putrid. This game was really bad by him, like really, really bad. 5 turnovers is insane for any player, but 5 turnovers in like 16 minutes, that you're turning the ball over like once every 3 minutes. That's awful. That's really bad. So I don't think Frank Jackson and Corey Joseph should get playing time on Friday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they should give other guys a shot. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below, or in the reviews down below, or over at Twitter at Kuka Hill. But yeah, I think on Friday we should see some different guys get a chance. When we come back, we're going to talk about another one of these players who is struggling a little bit and whether it's time to be a little bit worried about him. Find out which player that is when we come back from the break. But first, let me tell you about one of our sponsors, McDonald's. This episode of Locked On Pistons is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. A place where classmates can meet up for a study group, knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team, and the away team can come to recharge. It's a place where you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel. I told you guys this multiple times. When me and my fiance Megan went on a road trip a few weeks ago to Chicago, the first place we stopped at was McDonald's to get the McDonald's breakfast because it's just that good. You guys have to go try it out. Wake up a little bit earlier. Go check it out. I'm telling you, the sausage, egg, and cheese McMuffins, they're worth it. So go ahead to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. So we've talked about Corey Joseph, who struggles. We talked about Frank Jackson, who struggled. There's another player who struggled so far for the Pistons. And I'm not nowhere near him. He's not going to be he's not on the same level of like saying take minutes away from him. No, he's not on that level. But I guess maybe I should shout out some of these other guys that played yesterday before we talk about him. Isaiah Stewart dealt with foul trouble all night. I feel like a couple of his foul calls were definitely questionable, but still, I think he needs to be smarter about when you start picking up fouls, what to do and what not to do, knowing that you may not get the favorable whistle. Maybe not, try to take that blocking chance, or maybe not try to contest that guy at the rim. Maybe, sometimes you just have to make a business decision. And I think I think Isaiah Stewart can use this night as a way to learn about that. He only played 15 minutes. It sucks for him. He got teed up because he got really mad after one of them. I don't blame him. It looked like it was a clean block. But yeah, I think this is a learning experience for Isaiah Stewart moving forward. I don't think he's had much of a problem with fouls this season. Killian Hayes only had 4 shots this game. I feel like it has to do something with his hand. I think it has to be because he has that wrap on his left thumb. Because on offense, they literally just put him off ball. He didn't touch the ball really at all tonight. I know that people will say, well, he's doing that because he's playing with Cade. No, like when him and Cade have played together, yes, Killian has played off ball, which has been doing good, but he's also played on ball as well. Like they've done a good job interchanging it a lot. Tonight, he literally did not do anything on ball. Like, they kept him away from the ball. So I have to assume it's because he still has that wrap on his left thumb, and maybe they didn't want him, maybe he's not comfortable yet doing it with that injury. So I have to assume it's because of that. So I'm not going to read too much into Killian's game. I thought he did great defensively on Kevin Porter Jr., who shot 4 of 11 on the field. He was really frustrating the hell out of him. And I thought Josh Jackson had a really good game off the bench, played composed. He had 8 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. I thought this was one of his best games of the entire season. I really liked what he did off the bench tonight. Really composed, played great defense, good decisions with the ball, took the right shots. I really, really liked what I saw from Josh Jackson tonight. But let's go ahead and talk about the player who I think it's time to be a little bit worried about, and that's Saddiq Bey. Now, I'm not going to talk about Saddiq Bey being worried about him because he's taking too many twos, or that, not because he's taking too many twos or looking for too many shots inside the arc or trying to do too much with the ball. No, that's not why I'm worried about him. Even though he is showing steady decline each game, we talked about this in the last podcast, he's showing steady decline in that area. That's not too big of a deal to me. I've showed you guys that, he's going to have a rookie or sophomore slump. A full season, he's going to go like this. He's going to go up, down, up, down. Right now, he's in the middle of a down phase. I want to see him if he can get back up in that area. So that's part. I know it's part of his development season. That's not what I'm worried about. If he becomes good at it at the end of the by the end of the season, okay. If he continues to struggle at it, then we'll know. But I'm okay with finding that out. What I'm worried about is his outside shooting. Saddiq, his bread and butter and what he was drafted for and what he's supposed to be absolutely elite at is his outside shooting. I've showed you guys multiple times. The Pistons desperately need the outside shooting and the catch and shoot guy who's able to shoot 40% from deep that they had in Saddiq. They need that guy. Do they want the guy who can also do a little bit more? Absolutely. They want him to be able to do a little bit more. But first and foremost, they need that guy who's able to hit outside shots. We're 10 games into the season. He's shooting 27% from deep. Now, listen, it's an 82-game season. He very likely will turn it around because there's just too much evidence of him being a great shooter for him not to turn it around. However, 10 games is a lot. 10 games straight of being bad from outside, that's a lot of games to be this consistently bad from outside. And now, it wasn't happening so much at the very beginning of the season, but it's happening now where he's actively passing up open shots. This is becoming a trend now. We've said this multiple times in the podcast. I feel like over the past week or so that he's running away from open threes. He's not taking open threes. He's hesitating on open threes. He's pump faking and then sidestepping into a contested three. He's, catching the ball, having open three, hesitates. Defender comes out. He'll give him a jab set, then take a contested three, which he misses. There was a play last night where the Houston Rockets were running a zone. Killian Hayes got the ball in the right wing, went to whip it quick to a wide open Saddiq Bey in the corner, and Saddiq Bey is running from the three-point line. He's cutting to the rim. That's not like Saddiq. That's not what the Saddiq we saw from last year. So not only is he struggling on hitting the shots from beyond the arc, he's also struggling to simply take these shots confidently, and it looks like that he doesn't know what to do right now. It looks like he's hesitating. He's second guessing himself. And this is 10 games into the season. It's becoming like, at first it was just he's missing shots. Now you're starting to compound multiple things on this outside shot. First is he's not hitting his shots. He's just not hitting them. Then it was, okay, now he's hesitating in open threes. Then it was he's simply not taking open threes. Last night he was running away from open threes. So now I think it's time to be a little bit worried. Now, again, like I said, he has too much of a history of being a great shooter. So he's very likely to turn this around. I'm going to continue to say that. He's very likely to turn this around. There's no way that someone who has the history of him being a good shooter to be this bad right now. So he'll eventually get better at it. Obviously, I think it has to be likely that he turns it around. However, after 10 straight games of shooting this poorly from beyond the arc and multiple issues starting to compound himself in that same area, I definitely think it's time for fans and everyone alike to just be like paying attention to it legit now. Everyone needs to be watching that and seeing if it gets better. He needs to stop hesitating. The Pistons desperately need his shooting. I'm not blaming all the Pistons shooting problems on Saddiq. I mean, everyone else is struggling shooting wise too. It's Frank Jackson isn't hitting anything. Kelly Olynyk before tonight, he shot 50% tonight, but before tonight, he wasn't shooting very well from beyond the arc either. The Pistons' best catch and shoot guy, I feel like this season has been Killian Hayes, which speaks highly of Killian, how well he's improved and how much he's worked. But that's not what they need. And Saddiq Bey was supposed to be their best shooter. So when your best shooter is taking 9 threes in a game and only hitting 2, he's taking 6 to 7 threes a game and shooting 27%. he's not the only reason why you're struggling, but he's definitely a main reason why you're struggling when he's one of your best volume shooters and he's just not shooting well through 10 games. So again, do I think he's likely to turn around? Yeah. But I think 10 straight games is a large enough sample size to be like, okay, maybe we should be like watching this. This may be a little bit concerning. So that's it. Like I said, I don't care about the Sadiq, testing out, getting to the rim. He had a really good stretch in the fourth quarter that I feel like probably won the Pistons the game. He scored like 8 straight points for the Pistons, getting to the rim, drawing fouls, finishing around the rim. So I don't have a problem with him continuing to try to develop and use everything else in his game, his off the dribble game, trying to get to the rim. I don't have a problem with him doing that. If he struggles, he doesn't struggle. This is a development season for him. He looked good at the beginning of the season. He's struggling a little bit now with it. It's up and down. He has to go through the sophomore slumps, go through the walls. I don't have a problem with that. My problem is the thing that's supposed to be his bread and butter, he's really struggling with. And I compared it on the podcast last time, and I had some of you guys tweet at me and actually compare it to Svi Mikhailuk last year, who you could clearly see he improved everything else in his game, but at no point last season did he ever bring back his bread and butter with his outside shooting. And Svi had a long history, too, of being a great shooter. And he just wasn't able to find it last year. It was weird. It was really, really weird. So it really hurts Svi because you could tell that he really improved everything else on his game. And the thing that made him that would make him a lethal player wasn't there. So now all the other stuff he improved on didn't matter because people weren't really caring about his outside shot. I hope that doesn't happen to Sadiq this year. But we've seen weird things happen before. So I think it's time to be officially watching for it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've got for you guys on today's podcast. I'm feeling really, really sick. Oh, God, dude, I hate this so much. But I hope it wasn't too bad. I hope this week wasn't too bad. I know my voice has sounded really bad. I'm trying to fight through it. Hopefully next week will sound a little bit better. But I hope I was able to bring an entertaining podcast this week. We have one more to go, but I hope I've done a good job through the sickness of entertaining you guys. But great game last night. Our guy gets the win against the number 2 overall pick. It was a fun game. Oh, I apologize for that. Really fun game. Happy for it. Happy to watch it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back on Friday to preview the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And until then, I'll see you guys later. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. And make sure you guys go check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball with host Josh Lloyd. If you're into fantasy basketball, make sure you go check out that podcast. He does a great job of giving you all the tidbits, who to start, who to bench, who to sign, all those kind of things. And until the next podcast, I'll see you guys later. Please pray for me that I get better or send me good wishes, whatever, because this sucks. I'll see you guys in the next one, guys. Peace out.